I'd like to encapsulate the display of our alerts into a custom directive. This is an ideal use case for a custom directive. If I come into my shell page, you can see I have a two-column layout here with Bootstrap. So one div is a column 8, and then I have another div, column 4, that'll be on the right-hand side of the page. What I'd like to be able to do is give developers the ability to just write alerts, or perhaps a div with an attribute of alerts, and have all the alerts display on this part of the screen without doing any additional work. So over in my project folders, I already have an alerts directive, or the shell of an alerts directive. I just need to tell Angular that here is a function which will return the directive definition object for something called alerts. So we will return the DDO. Let's explicitly restrict this custom directive to being either an attribute or an element. We will need a template to display the alerts. I'll use a template file, so let's specify apps, templates, alerts.html. That's a file I already have in place, but it's empty. We'll have to create that view. And very important here, I do not want to use the existing scope object. I either want to create an isolated scope, or I want to set scope true to get a new scope object that will inherit from its parent. The reason I want to do this is because we're going to need to manipulate the scope. And if I'm sharing a scope with my parent, I can run into trouble because I might overwrite something that the parent already has, and in general just have some unintended consequences. By setting scope to true, I'll get a new scope object, and that will allow me to add some things into scope without harming others. So I'll need to inject that alerting service, and I'll need to get the current alerts from that alerting service and put them into the scope object for this directive. One place I could do that would be in the linking function. The first parameter to the link function is the scope object, and I can say scope.currentAlerts equals alerting.currentAlerts. Now, because services in Angular are always singletons, I will have a reference to that current alerts array, and anytime the service pushes something new into that array, I will also see that from my current alerts pointer here on the scope object. And that means I should be able to come into my template file, which is here but empty, and set up a bit of a UI. So let's create a div that will ng repeat over alert in current alerts. And to style this with Bootstrap, I can say that the class for this div should be alert, and then alert dash, and interpolate in alert.type. So that will be pulling out each alert from the array and using its type property to help style this div. Inside the div, I can have the message associated with that alert, and that should be enough UI where we can start trying this out by using a controller that will add some alerts using the alerting service. Let's try that next.